instead of just hanging these, it's probably, I think it's about 11 p.m. at night, so instead of hanging these by my lonesome in here, I thought that I would make a video and show what I know about hanging these, and maybe that'll help somebody in the future. So this is like my hanging shit on the wall kit. So I'll go through this really quick, and none of the things that I have are very expensive or very fancy. You need to have a drill. This is just a very inexpensive Ryobi drill. It's probably the cheapest one I could find at Home Depot at the time. So after you get the drill, another thing that you're going to want to get is a kit of drill bits. A pair of scissors. This is just to help open the packaging. This is a hammer. This is a level. This is a stud finder, and you need a screwdriver, screws, and drywall anchors. So these, they come just like this with both the anchors and the screws in them. You can buy them separately and you can buy them in smaller quantities, but I do recommend that you buy them together. I have like a big drawer with random screws and anchors and stuff in it, but it's kind of hard to find screws that fit well into the anchor if you haven't already matched them up. So to save yourself the trouble, go ahead and buy a box like this that's just got them paired up already. Some pencils. So you'll need probably, you'll have to inspect your hardware, and I'll show you mine in a minute, but you'll need a really small screwdriver, and this is a flathead, because there's a really small specialized screw in the bottom of the hardware that you're going to need to remove and put back in. So you need like a special tiny one. You can get like a whole kit of 5 or 6 of these at the dollar store or Walmart. And then a measuring tape. And then I have these other little things in here. These are pretty handy because they're like Post-it notes. A little overkill probably, but you could just use a piece of tape. Alright, let's open this thing up and show you what the pieces are. So inside here there's a little like plastic bag of pieces. So I got it out of the package. I've got my bag of parts. This piece, which is really important, this is the piece that you're going to be screwing to the wall. And then that, the actual towel holder attaches to this after this is attached to the wall. So most of the work is getting this onto the wall. Don't lose this. This is really important. Okay, and then it comes with screws and drywall anchors. They work okay. You can use them if you want, if you don't want to go and buy those other things. I have had some experience where the screws that come with, especially cheap hardware like this, they tend to strip really easily. So if you're screwing them into the wall or whatever, sometimes the metal isn't very strong and it kind of disintegrates. So these are kind of cheap crap. So that's why I use my own screws. So let's talk about drill bits for a second. This is the drill bit that I use for these screws if I'm screwing the screw directly into a stud. But if you don't have a stud behind the wall, then you need to use the drywall anchor. And then you need to use a thicker drill bit. The package of screws actually says on the back, use whatever size drill bit, but the thing is, from my experience, it was actually wrong. So the first time that I tried to use these, I used the drill bit that it recommended, which was smaller than this, and when I tried to hammer this into the hole, it basically like bent in half and instead of going in. And so I gradually used a bigger and bigger drill bit until I found this one, and I was able to push it in with my thumb up until here, and then I was able to lightly hammer it in the rest of the way. And that was the only way I was able to get it in without damaging the drywall anchor. So don't always take what's on the box as the Bible or whatever. So you can always change the rules if you want. So what I like to do is when I'm trying to, when I have my kit of drill bits in front of me and I'm trying to pick one out for the first time, pull one out that looks like about the same size and just compare. You can see that these are about the same size. That's what you want to look for. Okay? Always err on the side of being too small, because you can always drill the hole bigger, but you can't make it any smaller again. So if it looks about right, maybe go with the slightly smaller one and try that one first. See if you can push this in with your hand at least part of the way. You do have to push pretty firmly. And If you can push it in without damaging the plastic, that's the right size. If the plastic goes all wonky, or if this starts to spread out, or if this bends in half, or anything crazy happens to the plastic, the hole is too small. If you look at this drill bit for when you've got a stud, I don't think it's quite in focus, but you can see that the drill bit's actually a little bit smaller than the screw, and you need some wood left for the screw to bite onto. So if the drill bit was the exact same size as the screw, then you wouldn't have any wood for the screw to bite into. It would go in the hole and it would come right back out again. So in the case of just the screw into the stud, you need a smaller drill bit. And you could probably use one even smaller than this. This is just the one that I have been using. You guys ready for drill 101? Okay, so I've got this plugged into the wall. There's just an outlet over there. This is a trigger, of course. And then this yellow bit, you can see that this has like a reverse. It's like a play button, but it's backwards. So that means this is what you use if you're unscrewing something. And then on the other side, it's a play button. So that's the one you use if you want to screw something into the wall. So when we're screwing into the wall, we're going to have that pressed. And then when you use the trigger, it'll screw in. If you have it halfway pushed so that neither button is pushed, that locks the trigger. Okay, so that's how I have it most of the time. It's only right before I'm going to screw that I actually push that one in and do it. And if you pull the trigger slowly, it goes slowly. You pull it hard, it goes a lot faster. This here controls the torque. I basically use this setting here. It looks like a little screw because I'm screwing it all the way in. I think that that's the highest torque because if you're using this as like an automatic screwdriver, then you want a lower torque because you don't want to strip the screw. But if you're using a drill bit like we're going to be using, you want the drill setting. Makes it pretty easy. The only other thing that you need to know, well, there's a button here, but I actually forget what that does, so we're just going to pretend that's not there. The only other thing you need to know is how to get the drill bits in the end. So make sure that it's locked or unplugged so that the thing, the trigger is locked. And then you just turn the tip here, and you can see these little, there's 3 teeth on the inside, and they open up when you turn one way, and they close when you turn the other way. So you basically put the drill bit in the end like that, and then you screw it until it's tight. Sometimes it'll get caught between 2 teeth, and it'll start to tighten there. So make sure, this is the wrong way, so make sure that your drill bit is sticking straight out, because even though it's locked in there, it's not in there properly. So when you turn it, see what happens? It goes crazy. So it needs to be in the middle. Even now it's a little bit crooked. So it looks like it's in the middle of those 3. So you can see it's still crooked. So take your time getting that right and double check it. So you can see that it's now straight. That's what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what the small screwdriver is for. The big screwdriver, like I said, is for mounting that thing to the wall. This little one is for this little tiny screw right here. And what that does is you can see it's got a pointy bit right here. So when this thing is on the wall, it just slips onto there, and then when that screw is out, it can just snap into there, and then you tighten the screw back down again, and that's what keeps this on the wall. So the next step is you want to figure out approximately where you want this on the wall. I'm gonna just see where I like it. And that's kind of where these things come in handy, these little post-it note things. And then I'll just put this there. So that's about where I want this one. So I'm going to put this one back up where I thought I wanted it, and then I'm going to put this one up. Now, don't worry about it being level right now. The only thing you're doing is measuring like approximately where they're gonna be. Once I've got this, put that one down, still holding this one up, and I'm gonna mark approximately where that one's supposed to go. Alright, so there's my two marks on the wall. You can see that this one is higher than this one. They're not perfect by any means, but it doesn't have to be. It's just a general placement at this point. This is basically to just put them where I want them this way on the wall. To get them exactly level and stuff, we're going to do that now. So if I'm hanging this, the point where it actually hangs is a little bit lower than the very top of this. So when I mark with my pencil, I'm going to mark a little lower than this. Take a pencil, take the level. I'm going to come down from this red mark a little bit and put a little dot. The dot is exactly on the level, and the level is level. So now I can come over here and directly below this yellow one, make a little dot. Okay, so what we have, two dots as far apart as we decided we wanted it, and they're exactly level. Now that we have two dots drawn on the wall, we don't need these guys anymore because the dots are on the wall. We need to make a second dot below each one of these. Got the level. I'll find that mark on the wall. And I'm going to put that mark exactly in the middle of this hole. I'm going to eyeball that part. And then tilt this. I'm looking at this one here. Tilt it until it's level. Close enough. Now, and then use the pencil and mark exactly the middle of the other hole. So then repeat on that side. So we have the 4 dots on the wall. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next step, getting the dots on the wall, that's the hard part. The next step is we actually get to drill the hole. And first you need to know which drill bit you're going to use, and in order to know that, you need to know whether or not there is a stud behind these dots. And you can either use a stud finder for that, or you can measure. Studs are every 16 inches or so. You can measure from the edge of the wall. That's not always reliable though. And to be honest, sometimes stud finders aren't that reliable either. So what I like to do is start by assuming that there is a stud behind the wall and use the smallest drill bit, because most of the time there's not going to be a stud. But what happens is when you drill the hole with the small drill bit, you will be able to tell when the drill bit goes into the wall if it's hitting wood once it gets through the drywall, or if it just, what you'll see, and you'll probably see this when I do it, is it'll go in about 1/2 inch and then you'll see it'll like plunge in like there's a big empty space behind there. And this is the small drill bit. So that's what I'm expecting, because I don't think there's a stud right there. And hopefully you'll be able to see it. So it should drill smoothly for about 1/2 inch, and then it'll go, because there'll be an empty space behind there. Then, because that means there's no stud, what I'll do is I'll swap out the drill bit for the bigger one, which is for the drywall anchor, and I'll make the hole bigger. The reason that I like to start with the small drill bit is because if there is a stud, I haven't accidentally drilled a super huge hole in the drywall. Because if you're screwing directly into the stud, you want the hole to be a lot smaller. So that's why I start that way. Take your time. Place the drill bit on the dot. And you want to go straight into, so you want to lift the drill up so that it's perpendicular to the wall as much as possible. And then you're going to want to slowly drill. Sorry, just double checking here where the dot is. Slowly goes in. You see how it's sunk in there right at the end? That means there's empty space behind there. So I know that I'm going to have to make that hole bigger. Same thing is going to happen with this, so I'm just going to switch to the bigger drill bit, and I'm going to make that hole bigger, because I know that I need the drywall anchor there. Okay, so switch to the bigger drill bit. Just going to test to make sure that it's in there right, and it is. Okay, then I'm going to make this hole bigger. Okay, and if it flares out a little bit, like you can see the paint's kind of coming up a little, just kind of push those little splinters back in towards the hole so that when you put the drywall anchor in there, it kind of covers that up. Okay, so you get this far, then you take your drywall anchor, that's this, and if you haven't already done a few of these and you don't know if your drill bit is the right size, you're going to be testing it. And probably you'll end up having to do a slightly bigger one, but you'll know it's the right size when it does this. So it doesn't slip right in, but it does take some pressure to kind of push it in this far. And then I can't really get it any farther with my hand, but I'm going to use a hammer and lightly tap it in the rest of the way. I try to do my best to get this as flat against the wall as possible. So you want to aim carefully too, because this can dent your wall if you're not careful. Okay, I think that's about as good as I can get it. One thing too I forgot to mention is that when you're putting your drywall anchors in there, there's like a little crack where these two legs are going to come apart. So you want to put it in so that when the legs come apart, they come apart this way. So that, especially there's two holes here, you don't want them to both go this way. I think it's better if they go open this way. So when you put them in that way. I think I actually forgot to check on that one. It'll be okay. So I'm going to repeat this process on the other three holes and I will be back. So now that I've got the drywall anchors in, it's time to actually put the plate on the wall. So you put the screw through the plate and use a screwdriver and you just screw it right into the drywall anchor. I'm going to start here. And it's good practice that before you tighten this one down all the way, that you get both of them in a little bit of the way, just so that if the plate needs to adjust a little bit for the second one to fit in there, you haven't already tightened it down to the wall. I'm going to get this through the hole and into the other drywall anchor and get that one started. There we go. Tighten both of these down. Now it doesn't have to be like your top strength, you know, tighten as tight as you can possibly do it kind of thing. Just snug. It's good enough. Especially because the tighter you tighten this plate is going to eat into the paint a little bit and it can scar the wall. It might do that a little bit anyway, but especially true if you really wrench it down. Okay, so this is snug and this is really secure now. This is what's going to hold the towel rack on the wall. You can see it's super secure. So what you want to do is repeat this on the other side and then I will come back. Alright, so I have both of these on here now. The next thing is to actually attach the racks to the wall. So you take this and you take this small screwdriver and you're going to loosen this tiny screw at the bottom. It doesn't have to be taken all the way out, just loosen it a little bit. You can see it's out a little bit now and that spike has gone down. Then what you do is you just kind of basically just hooks onto that. And then The bottom part also hooks on, and if there's still some, like if there's a gap at the bottom here, that may mean that you didn't loosen this enough. But as soon as it's flush against the wall all the way around, then that means it's on there, and you can tighten this screw back down again. It's a little tricky when there's a camera in your way. I think that might be it. Yeah, okay. Let me just double check. Yep, so tighten that down. Again, you don't need to wrench it down as hard as humanly possible. Just snug is fine. And it should be, the screw should be flush with the bottom of this when you're done. And there you go. One of them is installed. So the reason that this feels and looks loose is because it's kind of intended to be slightly adjustable. In case you hang it slightly crookedly, you can adjust it a little bit. But that's just this hardware in particular. Like before I put it on the wall, I inspected it, and it's just this front part that kind of goes back and forth. It can't really be tightened. That's just kind of how it is. It costs $12. That's just how it is. But this part, the part that's actually on the wall, is really, really sturdy. So all you have to do is repeat what you just did on the other side, and then you have your towel racks. And there you have it.